Welcome to Zero to Profits, the podcast where we help professional-based small business owners scale their businesses and increase their cash flow by at least $100,000 this year. I am Coach Mack, and in each episode, we will dive into the strategies, tools, and tips you need to turn your business into a cash-generating machine. Whether you are just starting out or already running your business, this podcast is here to provide you with actionable insights to boost your revenue, streamline your operations, and ultimately build the business of your dreams. In today's episode, we'll be laying the foundation for what it takes to grow your business and unlock the cash flow potential you didn't know you already had. So grab a notebook and let's get to this money. Welcome to another episode of the Zero to Profits podcast, a place where I provide strategies for entrepreneurs to scale their businesses and increase their cash flow by at least $100,000. I'm Coach Mack, and for today, let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like you're running around in circles, working harder and harder, but not seeing the cash flow that you deserve? If that sounds like you, I want you to stick around because over the next few minutes, I am going to help you unlock one of the biggest keys to increasing your cash flow by at least $100,000 this year. And here is the thing. It all starts with how you run your business, your operations. So why this topic? What brought you to this video? I think it's very simple. You're here because you want to grow. You're not just dreaming about more revenue and profit. I believe you're ready to take action to make this actually happen. But something's been holding you back. Maybe it's confusion. Maybe everything's overwhelming. Or maybe you just don't know where to start. All I will say is don't worry. We've all been there. So let me tell you how I know what you're going through. I can relate exactly to your situation. The truth is, most small business owners, they struggle with operations. You're not alone. If you've experienced symptoms like having too many balls in the air and things slipping through the cracks, then you're dealing with operational issues, right? In addition to that, you could have orders being delayed, you could have customers frustrated, and then if you have a team, a lot of them may be confused about who's doing what. Does any of that sound familiar to the problems that you're having? If so, these are things that are symptoms of a broken operation and they're draining your time, your energy, and your money. So if you're trying to scale your business, these are things that need to be fixed ASAP, ASAP, as soon as possible. But before we get to solutions, what I want to do first is let's take a second to sit back, think about a time when you lost a big sale or you missed a big opportunity because something fell apart behind the scenes. Maybe it was a client who walked away because a deadline wasn't met. Or maybe it was because of the stress of doing everything yourself because you couldn't trust your team to handle things the right way. It's a painful process, isn't it? And if you're experiencing that, it's not only just costing you money, it's also costing you peace of mind and your happiness. Okay, so let's talk about operations for a second. What are operations? Operations is basically how you run your business from a day-to-day process, right? It's your systems, it's your process, it's your team working together to deliver your product or service to your customers. So think of it like an engine of a car, right? If the engine is running smoothly, you'll go far and you'll go fast. But if that engine is clunky or broken, you ain't going nowhere. A successful operation looks like a well-oiled machine, right? Everybody on the team knows their roles and they handle them to perfection. And when I say perfection, I'm not necessarily saying they get it right all the time, but you should have a constant process that understands that, hey, when you put something into that process, you can almost reasonably expect 99% of that time that it's going to come out a certain way. So like, for instance, your systems, whether it's customer service, inventory, or scheduling, everything should be easy to follow and it should save you time. Most importantly, if with a really good, efficient, and active operation, you should have the freedom to focus on growing your business instead of constantly putting out fires. So if you're out there putting out fires, you have a broken down operation, right? But if your operations are efficient and they're succinct and they're actually they're actually in succession, then basically you're not just surviving, you're now thriving. All right. So how do you know if your operations are successful? Well, in order to have successful operations, well, you first have to have a marker to evaluate where you are. And that starts with having good books. This is why bookkeeping and accounting is so important, because looking at the numbers help you track your money and make smart choices. If you have updated and organized numbers, you get to do 5 things that are important. The first thing you get to do is you get to know where your money is going. That's basically looking at what's coming in, what's coming out, how much are you spending. The second thing is you get to make better decisions. You get to know when to spend, know when to scale back. The third thing is you get to plan for the future. And what you use there is you can basically create some budgets or some forecasts to determine your goals based on how you did in the past. You also get to do something that can save you a ton of money. You get to spot problems early. The way you get to do that is if something's wrong, you get to look at if you're spending too much or not making enough money, having those books and that accounting done early can help you fix those problems fast. Last thing it helps you do is it helps you grow and it helps you to show others that you're trustworthy. So like, for instance, if you're looking to scale, a lot of you guys may be looking at banks and investors to come in and kind of help fund your business and help fund your growth. But you can't do that if you don't have the books and the accounting updated, right? So operations are successful. The very first thing you get to look at is you got to have good books to be able to do that. All right. So I'm coming back to how to know if your operation is successful, right? So if you have your books updated, here are 5 basic metrics that you can track, 5 of them. So the first one, we're going to talk about revenue. That's basically the total money that you earn. You can compare that from a month to month or at a year to year basis. If your revenue is going up, obviously you're doing something right. Second thing, expenses. This is the money that the business spends, whether it's rent, whether it's salaries, whether it's supplies. You also want to compare that from a month to month or year to year basis. But in addition to that, you also want to divide that number over the revenue to see what percentage of your revenue that you're spending on expenses, right? So for instance, for every dollar that you make, what percentage of that goes directly to expenses? So you can split that up into say, okay, well, what are my direct costs or what are my overhead? We can cover that later. But from a basic standpoint, just take that percentage and says, hey, look, what percentage of my expenses, what percentage of my income is tied to my expenses, right? Pretty simple. Number 3, profit margins. Your revenue minus your expenses is basically profit, right? That's a simple formula. But what we want to do is we want to take that profit and divide it over the revenue. And basically what that means is this is basically telling me how much of what I receive am I keeping for myself in profit, right? So are you keeping more of what you earn? A good standard for a small business is anywhere from 30 to 40%. If you're doing anywhere from 30 to 40%, you're doing outstanding as a business owner. Now, there are some businesses that are high margin because they don't have a lot of costs, they don't have a lot of overhead. But for a standard or an average, if you're doing about 30 or 40%, you're probably in the mix to say, hey, look, I'm ready to scale. Now, here's something that frustrates business owners a lot of time. If you've ever had that pain point where you've gotten to your accountant and your accountant says, hey, you made all this profit this year, but then you've said the question of, well, why don't I feel like I haven't made a lot of money? My bank account doesn't show that I've made a lot of money. Well, that symptom is a symptom of you not having this last one. This number 4 one is cash flow. So cash flow is basically explaining how much money in the bank that you currently have, and is it growing from month to month and year to year? So for instance, you may be making profit on paper, right? If we pull your profit and loss and it shows, hey, you have, $100,000 in revenue, 50,000 expenses, and then it shows $50,000 in profit, right? So revenue minus expenses equal profit, 50,000 in profit. But if you are commingling funds and you're not accurately keeping track of your income and expenses and what's personal related and what's business related, then at the end of the month, you could have $500 and $500 in the account, and you're wondering where's the money going. Well, that's the issue that with most small business owners that are making less than 100,000, they typically see is because they're commingling funds and they don't have any way to track that cash flow. So we really don't know if this business is in trouble or if it's a successful business because the books are so commingled with a lot of the personal expenses. Right. So that's something that you want to track, and you want to know, is that bank account growing from month to month and year to year? A pretty important metric, right? So now the last one is also important as well. You want to know this term called break even. You want to know how many sales you need each month, each day, each week, each year to cover all of your expenses. Here's why that matters. That metric will show you how much you need when the doors open what you need to sell to avoid losing money. The reason why this is important is, did you know that about half of small business owners across the country, they don't know this metric? If I walk and over the last 13 years, I've consulted with plenty of business owners. That's the first question I typically ask is, hey, well, you're saying you're struggling. What's your break even? A lot of them say, well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what my break even is. What is a break even? That is something you need to understand. Okay, so we've talked about operations, explaining what it is. We explained kind of what it looks like if it's bad. We talked about what it looks like when it's good. And then we also talked about kind of tracking, things to improve the operations. So my question to you now is, where are you in relation to all of this, right? How does this relate to you? If you feel like your head is spinning and you get the sense that you haven't been doing things the right way, I don't want you to be worrying and I don't want you to panic, because there's three things that you can start today. So the first thing is, you need to get your books updated, right? Get those things updated today. The reason why you want the books updated today is because accurate bookkeeping helps you see, one, where your money is going. It helps you to two, identify waste, and three, it helps you to basically make better financial decisions. So if you're trying to scale, don't take this on yourself. Hire somebody. My firm can help you. Staying on top of your books is a game changer, right? So the next thing we want to do is we want to map out our processes, right? I need you to write down every step of how you deliver your product or service. You need to find where the bottlenecks are. And when I say bottlenecks, these are the things that are basically holding you up and taking more time than you would like. And we need to attack those processes first. How do we attack them? Well, the way we would do that is using step number 3. Let's set some clear expectations. Let's set some targets and track these things monthly. Whether it's your team or your customers, we want to make sure that we're clear in our message, and we want to make sure that everybody knows what to expect and when to expect it. Once you've gotten your books updated, you're mapping out your processes, you're attacking the different bottlenecks, you're improving your process, making things go a little faster, and actually getting your quality of your service down, or your quality of your products down, and you're setting expectations, you're tracking them. Then that last thing we need to do is figure out how to start delegating and automating things. We really need to get you as the business owner out of trying to do everything yourself. If you are trying to scale your business to $500,000, right? And let's say you're at $100,000 right now. In order to grow 5X, you are going to have to stop trying to do everything yourself. So we need to start using tools like scheduling softwares, project management apps, or maybe even bring in some assistants, a virtual assistant, maybe bring in a bookkeeping team to help you with understanding the financials. And then maybe bring in some staff to actually help with the actual execution of the implementation of performing your services. Having those people into your business will help you increase in scale. Okay, so listen, improving your operations isn't just about making life easier. It's also about unlocking your business full potential. And I want you to just sit and just kind of, ponder on this for a second. Imagine what you can do with an extra $100,000 in cash flow this year. If you start with the simple steps that we've identified, or that I've identified in this video, I promise you'll see a difference. All right. So before we wrap up, I want to tell you about my 8-week program that's designed to help you fix those broken operations and finally get the cash flow that you've been missing out on. In this program, we'll work together step by step over the next 8 weeks to uncover what's really holding your business back. Maybe it's an outdated process. Maybe it's team communication. Maybe it's a lack of structure. Whatever it is, we'll help you fix it. Then we'll craft a plan that's made just for you and walk through it together so you're never stuck about wondering what to do next. Here's the big win that you'll get from this. By solving the daily headaches like the missed deadlines, the unhappy customers, and the money left on the table, you can lock in the extra $5,000 to $10,000 in sales over the next 60 to 90 days. More importantly, you'll finally have the time and energy to focus on growing your business, and instead of putting out fires. So if you're ready to get off that hamster wheel and start running your business with confidence, schedule a discovery call with me. I want to hear from you. We'll talk about your biggest challenges, where you want to be, and how we can bridge that gap together. Whether or not we decide to work together, you'll walk away with a clear picture of what next steps to take. Don't wait. I'm only taking a few people because I want to give each client the personal attention they need. So in my description, in this video, in the description, there's a link I'm going to place in there. I need you to click on that link in the description to book your call, and let's make this your breakout year.